And Utsoda, welcome to Hindu Lounge. Utsoda, this is Hindu Lounge number 61. And Utsoda, do you notice any difference here today? I think this is a really cool way of doing Hindu Lounge. For some reason, your video is not as strong as it should be, but I think we'll fix it. So, Utsoda, we are using a new technology, and as with any new technology, there is always a little bit of hiccup here and there, and we came across that hiccup, and now we have addressed it, so we are all good to go. So good morning, Utsoda. Welcome to Hindu Lounge number 61. And Utsoda, this is a cool one because you can see that now there is a title under our name, and I can actually run through Hindu Lounge, which is brought to you by Hindu Pact, and Hindu Pact is an initiative of World Hindu Council of America. It is the policy research and advocacy initiative of World Hindu Council of America. Utsoda, I know you're playing around with the template. I thought I liked the previous one a little better with your zoom in, but now we can see Maya Durga, so that's even better. So this Hindu Lounge comes live every Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern and 8 o'clock Pacific, live on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, if we do not have any technical issues. And it turns out that once in a while we do run into technical issues, and that's why the things kind of get delayed a little bit. And today, as we are trying out a new way of streaming this, we came across a little technical glitch, we kind of went through it. And for those people who are who gave up on us, the recording is always available. And I know a lot of people watch it after the show is over because there are a lot of competing programs also going on. But Utsura, welcome to Hindu Lounge. Today we have a really interesting topic, right? We are going to talk about the Pew Survey that came out a couple of weeks ago, but we are going to put in context of American Hindus. So with that, Utsura, welcome, and floor is yours.
Thank you, Ajay Bhai. And I really like this new setup. I think we have more options and more. We look, even though our content used to be pretty good, we actually are doing. I think this looks much nicer. So I think I feel better about this. We have those marquees on the bottom and graphics. This is Hindu Lounge.
Yeah.
I like this. So it took us a while to get on today because, this is the first time we are using this software. So it took us about 10-15 minutes to get on. So apologies to our audience. We see
Absolutely.
that there are a lot of people watching us now on Twitter.
Yeah. And what the cool thing also there is that if we can actually connect to the chat, and when people type the chat, they will be able to connect here also. So I'll just put, for example, a chat here. And I'll say, Namaskar everyone, and welcome to Hindu Lounge. And when I say, so this, I'm doing this as an intro because this will give everyone an opportunity to participate in the show in live, and we will put up their chat overlay. So Utsada, here is the chat overlay, and I go over this only not to take away the time from our discussion, but I want to kind of show everyone that there is a way for everyone to participate in this show. So once again, I just type Namaskar, and that should ideally appear if I turn on. There you go. See, so all the chat now on whatever people type, and as soon as I see chat coming in, and I don't have to now go and read the chat and all of that, I'll just display it on the screen, Utsada. So with that, Utsada, without further uh, discussion on the new technology and why we were late and all of that. So that I want to actually get started on this really, really good topic. So then let me share my screen, and you see this is the cool part. Now you can see Sampath Kumar said G has said namaste, and I am able to display the comment, and so is the comment from Dhaval Bhai. So here we go. All right. So I'll remove the chat overlay for a second so that we can actually, go and share the screen, and you can dive right into the topic of the day. So Utsada, walk us through the topic of the day, which is the analysis of the Pew Survey. So this is an interesting survey that came out, and uh, so I did a little bit of fancy graphics here, so you have to kind of bear with me and on this one. Uh, we are since we are going. So that here is the first screen. So I hope you can see the screen. This one says Indians feel that this is the survey of 30,000 people that was done in India, and this survey talked about the religion in India, and the first question was, or one of the questions was, Indians feel that they have religious freedom, and they see respecting, and they see respecting all religions as core values. So, how many people identify with what religion?
So
How
Ajay
much?
bhai, before we go into this, before
Yes.
we dive into the survey, I wanted to tell our audiences why it is important. Because
Okay. Good.
in the last 8 years, I mean, India has been, being one of the world's largest democracies with a very, very diverse population. India has been the target of fault line divisive politics, geopolitics throughout its existence since time immemorial. You know, so it is important to understand why this survey is important. And Pew has done a lot of work. I'm not saying that it's faultless or flawless. Nothing is flawless, but Pew has put in a lot of effort and a lot of resources to get this survey done. And there are, in the last 7 or 8 years, I have seen a lot of noise being made in the American mainstream regarding India and regarding India's population segments, regarding India's religious diversity, and how it interacts with the rest of the world and how it interacts within itself. India has been the focus of misinformation, malintended propaganda, and really aggressive, aggressive policy making based on some of these issues. So it is important. This Pew survey is very important to put some of those issues at rest, because once you look into the real data, and nobody can blame, oh, Pew is pro India. In fact, Pew has had somewhat anti-India bias in the past. So nobody will go and say that, hey, Pew, you were a Modi bhakt or something like that. That cannot be said. Even the worst of critics cannot say that.
Right.
That is why this is very important, and we are going to go through some of the slides, some of the important conclusions that the Pew research came up with, because those conclusions, in my opinion, as you will see over the next couple of minutes, actually are very good antidotes to the anti-India and some of the anti-Hindu propaganda that appears in mainstream American media, as well as other platforms and the public square. So it is very important for those of us who are watching this to get these information, because data is important. We can fight propaganda as much as we want, but as long as you have data on your side, and data that is really well put together and well researched, like that from Pew, which is, if anything, not in friend of ours, uh, is very important. So I would urge everybody who is watching the show, I see there are 5 or 6 people who are watching live. Please, share this with your friends. It's important, because you are more informed, make your friends more informed. So let's go ahead.
And the live view numbers are not always accurate, by the way. Just want to put that out. So there are probably a lot more people watching. I want to go over the survey a little bit. So this is the first part of the survey. As you can see that it says Indians feel. So the question is, Indians feel they have religious freedom, see respecting all religions as core values. So
No, Ajay bhai,
so
that's the conclusion. That's the conclusion
That
that
is the conclusion. The
that's the
question
conclusion they
was
have
the
come up with.
question. Absolutely, absolutely. The question was, how many Hindus, for example, the way to interpret this is how many Hindus feel that respecting all religions is very important to being a true Indian. Okay, how many Hindus? So 85% of Hindus think that respecting all religions is very important to being truly Indian. Okay. 78% of Muslims think that. 78% Christians think that. 81% Sikh, 84% Buddhist, 83% Jains think that. So you
So,
can see, Utsada, just one
Ajay bhai,
point,
Ajay bhai,
one
if you
point. Well, hold on, Utsada, one point. Uh, can you go back to, I don't know if I went to the other slide by mistake, but here, Utsada, the point I wanted to make here is that dharmic philosophies that evolved in India have are have more feel more tolerant. They think that respecting all religions is very important to being truly Indian. Go ahead. You're on mute,
it's funny
Utsada.
that you
Yeah.
say that, Ajay bhai, because I was going to say the exact same point. So, as
We've
the
talked to each other for a very long time.
so as
We
the
know each other
larger
for a long time. We talk to each other frequently. I think you're probably brainwashing me at this stage.
no, no, it's the other way around. But
I don't know.
so no, the point I was going to make was pretty much the same, that you have to look at, as Hindus, we look at Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, and Jains as one larger Hindu dharmic community. And you see that there's a consistency between 81% to 85%, which is a very, very close number when it's statistically speaking, of Hindus and the other Hindu communities. Sikhs, Jain, they have all looked at them separately, but as VHPA, we look at them together. They all have, more than 80% of them believe that respecting all religions is important to being Indian.
And
And that
then
is
that
something
kind
that,
of,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
and that is something that is very important for our observers in the West, because this shows that, in by and large, majority of the country, because if you add all these groups together as a larger Hindu population, they're close to 80 to 85% of the population. So
Yep.
majority of the country overwhelmingly believes that respecting all religions is very important to being truly Indian. Now, the more important point here is that 78% of the Christians and 78% of the Muslims also believe that. So, if there are people out there who really think that they can do fault line fishing using the Muslims and the Christian minorities of India, they might be able to do that on the newspaper headlines after paying somebody. But by and large, on the grassroots, 78% of Indian Muslims and Indian Christians believe that it is important to respect all religions to be truly Indian. So, bad news for people who hate India and people who hate Hindus for now.
So that the second part of the question, respecting other religions, is very important part of their own religious identity. And if you look at that, 80% of Hindus, 86% of Buddhists, and 73% of Jains, um, they all think that respecting now
Ajay bhai, your microphone is.
the Jain number is low. So that the reason Jain number is low is because when Jains look at other people slaughtering animals, for example, in the name of religion, um, that respecting other religions is very important part of the identity question is answered differently. Um, as part of their own identity. So respecting other religion is very important part of their religious identity. That question will always score low for Jains, but they would always score high in terms of Jains would always score high in terms of respecting all religions to be truly Indian. So there's a difference. It is not the part of their own identity if you say that I'm going to respect someone who's going to slaughter animals, and that is the rationale for Jains only 73% of Jains compared to, uh, say, for example, 80% of non-Jain Hindus, or 86% of non-Buddha, 86% of Buddhists saying that.
Again, Ajay, this is a very interesting point, because we all know, and we have discussed in the past, that not every religion has respect for other religions. Some of the major religions of the world, in fact the major religions of the world, do not respect other religions, because that's how they show their exclusivity, and some of that is theologically and historically ingrained in them. But despite that theological inclination, and despite the inherent exclusivism in many of the world's top religions, at least the top two, you still see that in the Indian context, they see. So this shows that how the in Hindu ethos has permeated across the population of India, and this shows how, there 80% of the Hindus said that it's important for them to respect other religions as part of their own religious identity, and so do 79% of the 79% of the Muslims, and 78% of the Christians. That is unique, and that is a uniquely Indian thing to do. So this is something that goes down, and in the this should be studied historically. New York Times should write an article about how uniquely Indians are united and similar in terms of their religious beliefs, instead of putting out an article every week about how Hindus are genociding everybody else in the subcontinent.
So that I yesterday I went to Google and I searched news for Hindu or Hinduism. That was the search I did, and every single news story was against Hindus, and how India, as a majority Hindu country, has become intolerant. That was the narration. There were 25 stories that said the same thing, okay, in many different ways. Whether the stories are from the mainstream Indian newspapers, they were from newspapers like Washington, mainstream American papers, Washington Post, New York Times, whatever. There are stories from the web-based news propaganda channels like The Wire. All of them had in one voice. They all said India, as a Hindu majority country, has become intolerant. I look at this, Utsada. I look at this survey, and I see that 91% of Hindus and 89% of Christians and Muslims say that they are free to practice their religion. Okay? 89, same number of Muslims. So this exposes the likes of Indian American Muslim councils and the Salat and the whole bunch of the 100 of these organizations with five people running all the 100 organizations, exposes all of them. It exposes the like of Audrey Tashkis, exposes the likes of all the anti-Hindu, Hindu-phobic, Hindu-hating academicians, because the data from Pew, not data from our survey, data from Pew shows that Muslims in India, Christians in India, think that they are free to practice their own religion, even in a place which is where there's so much money being spent by anti-India forces in Punjab. 82% of Sikhs thinks that they're free to practice their religion. So why the disconnect? Do you think that the money that is coming in from big donors like Soros is wasted here? So that you're on mute. I, I
Care, yeah, I think Care and Soros and all these, Turkey, Qatar, Muslim Brotherhood, Pakistan, of course, they're if they are paying using millions of taxpayer dollar, petrodollar, or whatever dollars on these groups and individuals, Audrey Trushkis of the world, the Sunita Vishwanaths of the world, you know, don't waste your money, because on Twitter, on Washington Post, on New York Times, on LA Times, you can create this narrative that, Hindus are destroying everything and everybody in India is in danger from Hindus. No, the Pew survey shows nobody believes that. And in fact, I think, that also highlights how they actually are not able to convince people. in India of their reality, of their, of their validity. They cannot, people in India don't believe these people anymore. So the only people who these people are targeting their propaganda towards are policymakers in Washington DC and other capitals of the world. And I think they know that. The Audrey Trashkis and the Sunita Vishwanaths know that, they may make a lot of money doing this propaganda and creating hate against Hindus around the world, but nobody in India would believe that. The only people who believe that are their own propaganda masters, and that's why they're paying them so much. So maybe they should rethink their policies and invest somewhere else.
Or invest in the welfare of people who are suffering around the world. I mean, I think that money will be well spent. Uh, so that let us move on to the next set of questions. There are quite a few. This is okay. There's a percentage of Indian Hindus who say that a person cannot be Hindu if they eat beef, um, do not believe in God, never go to temple, never praise. Now, you can see that Hindu Dharma, unlike the Abrahamic religions, does not have does not put a lot of emphasis on strict precepts, such as you have to pray a certain number of times in a day, you have to go to a place of worship every week, any of that. And this survey kind of indicates that. In fact, it even indicates that Hindus believe that you don't have to believe in God. Half the Hindus say that you don't even have to believe in God to be a Hindu. And I think, and I actually, as an aside, um, you know, that is why even the communism in India has not taken hold, because the underlying philosophy in communism is that you reject the religious tyranny, and you reject God, and you reject the organized religion. Well, Hindu Dharma says you don't even have to believe in God. You don't have to go to temple necessarily, and you don't necessarily have to perform pujas and prayers every day. However, almost three quarters of the Hindus do believe that you should not be eating beef. That is important for Hindus. And that is important to Hindus from the religious perspective, from the cultural perspective, and from the basic respect perspective for an animal that is so central to the village life in India. And that is why eating beef is considered a bigger taboo than believe, whether you believe in God or not. Because here we respect a cow or gau mata, for multiple things and through thousands of years. I mean, after all, even Shri Krishna was a cowherd, right? And when he took the avatar, when Shri Vishnu took avatar of Krishna, he became a cowherd. He protected cow. He took care of cow, and the cow has a special place in the heart of Indians and Hindus. And Utsada, I don't see dog slaughterhouses in America either. So every culture has its own way of respecting, animals and other forms of lives. Your comments?
Well, I think Ajay, uh, this slide was expected. I think this is something that has become culturally ingrained in the Hindu society for more than, I would say, more than 3 millennia, and for good reasons. So, what this slide shows is that even though most Hindus in India may not be students of philosophy, because Hindu Dharma is not taught in schools in India, very ironically. It's not, there are not many places in the world where Hindus are in majority. So Hindu Dharma is not taught in schools. Hindu Dharma has very little official patronage or knowledge system that is still being used in the education system of India. Very little. But despite that, some of the core values of Hindu Dharma that have gone on and survived and thrived for centuries in a deeply profound philosophical way have actually managed to permeate in the vernacular. For example, Historically, Hindu Dharma is the only major religion of the world that has space for people who do not believe in divinity, in the existence of a supreme being or God. And even in the orthodox Hindu schools, divinity was questioned. If you study Sankhya philosophy, if you study uh, even Mimamsa philosophy, there is a lot of all the Hetuka school, the rational schools of Hindu Dharma, philosophies of Hindu Dharma. In Orthodox Hindu Dharma, I'm not even going to the heterodox schools of Jaina and the Bauddha philosophies. Those are heterodox Hindu schools. They don't have any mention of divinity. Even the Orthodox Hindu schools question divinity. And that was intrinsic to the Hindu philosophical schools back 3,000 years ago. And profound scholars spent time debating that, not fighting over it, but debating it. Average Hindus lost all this knowledge in the past 1,000 years of slavery and colonization. But miraculously, if you look at this survey, you see that they may not know the rationale behind those debates and behind those philosophical schools, but the average Hindu still believes and carries those narratives even today at the vernacular level, which is why even though half the Hindus believe that you don't have to believe in God to be a Hindu, which is this makes me, this makes me believe more and more why Hindu Dharma is Sanatan. And this is a very good slide to show that. And
Absolutely.
it's very heartening. I sometimes I'm more disappointed on many topics concerning Hindus, but this survey actually shows, at least in India, I'm not talking about the larger Indian subcontinent, but at least within India, despite everything that happened in the past 1,000 years, Hindu Dharma has a vernacular uh, soul that thrives.
Absolutely. So that going to the next question, and you see that I have been I've been typing the summary of our conversation to some extent, and you can feel free to do the same. And that way, when one of us is talking, the other one can be typing the summary. That's a pretty cool feature, right? So I think we are just discovering new things and new ways of doing it. So good. Let's go to the next slide. So that the next slide. Oh, sorry, I missed that one. The next question on this survey is uh, about percentage of Indian adults who support allowing Muslims to go to their own religious courts to solve family disputes such as inheritance or divorce cases. So that this takes us back to Sharia court, right? So I so that this is so Muslim religious practice law is called Sharia, and this is a question that is going to Sharia. Now, Sharia can be implemented in two different ways. There is one, the civil aspect of it, and the other one is the criminal aspect of it. Now, this question is: should the Muslims in India be allowed to go to their own courts? Now, remember, Utsada, unlike America, and this is really important for American Hindus to know, unlike America, India does not have uniform civil code. Okay, that means that there is one set of laws for civil disputes for Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, and Sikhs. It's all covered under the Hindu Family Act or Hindu Family Law. And then there's a separate one for Muslims and Christians, right? So Hindus there's been, so for all the people in America who think that India is an intolerant, Hindutva driven country, please keep in mind that India has even allowed a separate civil code for Muslims, where America does not allow that. And look at this, the 13-14% of Muslims, 74% of them think that they should have separate laws. 30%, only 30% of Hindus think that they should be allowed to have a separate law. Interestingly enough, only a quarter of Sikhs and about a quarter of Christians think that Muslims should have a separate law. Why? Because that is so that is because they this these kinds of laws lead to separatism,
Which is why,
right?
if you look at this survey, Ajay Bhai, if you look at this survey, it shows that majority of India, and when I say majority, I mean about 80 to 85% of India, overwhelmingly believes that Muslims should not have separate civil laws. They do not have separate criminal laws, but they do not even they should not even have separate civil laws, which in turn, in my opinion, translates that they support, majority of India supports a uniform civil code, and from a legislative perspective. So, if tomorrow there is a uniform civil code from a legislative perspective, if the current government in India brings it, I feel that based on this particular analysis and data from Pew, most Indians will support an uniform civil code.
Yeah, in fact, you know, so there was a ruling from the Delhi court this last week, uh, and that was related to uniform civil code. But we don't want to dwell into it today. But at some point, we should actually kind of talk about that, because that is an issue that is important for American Hindus to understand. That because that India is, if India was as intolerant as it is made out to be, then India would not be giving a Sharia like law specifically to Muslims. I mean, I keep saying Sharia because so that it's only one step away uh, from having a separate criminal law. And there are countries where they they have gone from separate civil code to separate criminal code. I can think of provinces in Nigeria. I can think of provinces in Indonesia where this has led to the next step from separate civil code to a separate criminal code. And that does not bode well for any country, right? So, with that, Utsada, let's go to the next slide. I just want to adjust this a little bit for the next slide. Okay, so this is about this is a question about percentage of Indian adults who say that partition of India and Pakistan was for Hindu Muslim was a good thing, bad thing, or neither good or bad for the Hindu Muslim relations. Now remember, Utsada, this is the partition in which happened in 1947. India became independent and got divided into India and Pakistan. 1 million people died. Okay, 1 million people died. Millions were rendered homeless. Millions were rendered homeless. Okay, there are cities in Pakistan which were majority Hindus, or at least 30-40% Hindus. There are no Hindus left. Okay, so there are the places where there were magnificent Hindu temples where none exist. That didn't happen in India. That happened only in Pakistan. But all the preaching of tolerance happens to Hindus in India, and all the youth, Hindu youth in America, are led to believe that their parents and their forefathers were intolerant, but they are the ones who actually suffered. Islam in America has thrived. Islam in Bharat has thrived. There are more Muslims now in India than there were during partition. There are more madrasas. There are more mosques. There are more. Every indicator shows that they are doing better in India than they are doing in Pakistan, right? In every aspect. But despite of that, or because of that, maybe 30% of Indian adults who are Muslims say that, you know, it was a good thing for in Hindu and Muslim relations. Why
Well,
is that? Why did
there are a couple of things, Ajay bhai, that we need to understand here. Uh, More Muslims than Hindus in India see partition of the subcontinent as a bad thing. I think it's primarily because they realize, and I can put my head out a little on the chopping board for saying this. They realize that strategically and as a community, they would have been better off in India, a united India that goes all the way from Iran to Myanmar and China. uh, they would have been far better off socially, probably economically, and certainly in terms of their quality of life. Scientifically, their knowledge systems would have been far better because they would have been part of the Indian mainstream. And I think Indian Muslims realize that creating kicking all the Hindus out from what is Pakistan, doing genocide on them, forcibly converting them, only expose them to the vagaries of what Islamism is, which is it starts eating itself up. So I'm pretty sure Indian Muslims see that even though Pakistani Muslims call themselves Pakistanis and Muslims, there is a pecking order of discrimination that is far more brutal and far more aggressive within Pakistan amongst Muslims than in a diverse country like India. So the Shia in Pakistan is more unsafe than the Shia is in India. The Ahmadiyya in Pakistan is more unsafe than the Ahmadiyya in India. The Hindu, of course, is genocided in Pakistan. The Christian, of course, is genocided in Pakistan. The Jew is gone from Pakistan. The Parsi or the Zoroastrian is finished in Pakistan. The Sindhi is discriminated by the Punjabi, and the Punjabi is discriminating against the Pashtun and the Baloch, which are ethnicities, not necessarily religious identity. So within Sunnis, there is discrimination. Within Sunnis are discriminating against Shias and Ahmadis. Shias are discriminating against Ahmadis. And when I say discrimination, they're sometimes killing each other. So I'm pretty sure Indian Muslims realize that, if you leave Muslims to the fate of Islam in the hands of Islam, they will be far more dangerous to each other than living with Hindus in a country that values its own civilization of diversity.
so the it,
But it is a forewarning for us. It is a warning for us. That doesn't mean that Hindus should not be alert to the fact that there could be more elements within the Muslim communities of India that may want to further create Pakistans out of India. That is a warning that should be kept very much in mind. Because again, we are looking at statistics here, and all it takes is 10% of the people to commit really crazy acts to push a society into the brink of violence. So while the Pew Survey is very heartening and gives a good direction towards how people think, and a very positive thinking that I can find from it, we have to be alert as people in the Indian subcontinent towards those 5 to 8% who are going to benefit from creating violence and struggle.
so that there's one anomaly here, right? And that anomaly is there's only one data point. There are two, right? One is that the only the Sikh the number of Sikhs who say that India and Pakistan, the partition of India and Pakistan was a bad thing for Hindu and Muslim relations. 66% of Sikhs say that. Now remember, Sikhs suffered just as much as Hindus, if not more, because Punjab was at the center stage of the partition. So that how do you interpret the Sikh data here?
I think the Sikhs, what happened with the Sikhs during the partition, and I think this is not just true for the Sikhs. They are being considered a separate religious group, therefore their statistics is being counted here. Within the Hindu community, if you talk to the Sindhi community, if you talk to the Bengali community, you will find similar statistics, certainly with the Sindhi community, which is now completely uprooted and has no place to call homeland, the Hindu Sindhis. They're all refugees in India. So I think the Sikhs who are being identified here because they are being considered a separate religion have lost most of what was the historical Sikh lands. Very little of what Sikhs considered as their historical ancestral lands is where they have home now. As much as the Khalistani Sikhs, rant and rage against India, and they have created a whole generation of Canadian, American, and British Sikhs who are delusional in their hatred against India. The real problem that Khalistanis or their children who hate Hindus need to know and learn historically from is the fact that Sikhs have been deprived of everything by the Muslims of Pakistan. They are the
Well,
ones who have lost everything. And not just the
yeah, but
Sikhs.
Maharaja Ranjit Singh's capital was Lahore, right? It was not Amritsar.
No, not just that. I mean, all the majority of the holy sites of the Sikhs outside Amritsar, lie in Pakistan, and Nankana Sahib, as far as Rawalpindi, these places were all important to the Sikhs.
Yeah,
So they have to really, then they will actually have support from far more people if they actually tell the truth. That's what I keep telling to the youth in America, the Sikh youth in America, that genuinely is delusional sometimes in its hatred for Hindus based on the propaganda they have received from the Khalistanis, that their real struggle is against Pakistan and Islamists in Pakistan. And that's who, if they actually deliver that struggle, and the rest of the world global community supports them, they can actually recover what Sikhs lost in 1947. And I think this would be true about not just Sikhs, but also Sindhi Hindus as well as Bengalis. It's just that they are not being counted here because they are Hindus. So they are coming under the larger Hindu umbrella.
absolutely. So there's a lot of echo at your end. So you want to correct that. Um, I don't know why. At sometimes there's a lot of echo coming from the other side, but we are past that. So the it's interesting because I think if you look at the first few slides, you see that the sentiments of separatism is not showing among Sikhs in India. It is much more pronounced outside of India, and this is again it's one of those things where a lot of outside money has gone into this, and and outside of India it is much more pronounced. In India, it doesn't get as much traction. Um, Going to the next one, Utsada, the next question. Now, this is hard to read, so let's make it bigger and then see if we can. Now, this, as everyone knows, there's a lot of movement in America to make Indians and Hindus especially aware and make them feel guilty about their caste, right? So this is the question that says the percentage of Indian adults who say it is very important to stop X being the whatever category, right, in their community from marrying into another caste. Okay, I want to point out, Utsada, one thing here. Um, I don't know if you can see this, but look at this. 63% of Hindus think that it's important for them to stop someone in their community from marrying into another caste. First of all, caste being a misnomer, it should be Varna and Jati, but British consolidated both into a generalized thing called caste, and they made it rigid, which, in Vedic Hindu Dharma at least, is not supposed to be rigid based on birth. But this is what the definition of caste is as it stands in Indian constitution today. 63% of Hindus think that it's important to stop someone in their own community from marrying someone of the other caste. 64% of Hindu women think that, 63% of Hindu men think that, 70% of Muslims men and 74% of Muslim women think that there should not be any intercaste marriage. 59% of Sikhs, 58% of Sikh, 59% of Sikh men, 58% of Sikh women think that. So 44% of Buddhist men and women think that. 57 and 61% of you know, uh, Jains think that. And as you can see going further, it's actually the let's just stick there and then we'll talk about the regionalism there. But Utsada, what do you make of this? It seems like casteism, if you were to call that, at least as defined by the Indian constitution, is much more pronounced among Muslims than it is about against Hindus.
Not just that. The bigger takeaway from this is, if you look within the caste categories, the so-called scheduled caste, or the so-called scheduled tribes, or the Vanavasis or Adivasis, as the Westerners called it, Adivasis, and the scheduled caste, the Westerners call them as Dalits. There is more caste consciousness, or as much caste consciousness amongst Dalits and the Adivasis as it is amongst all other categories. So what you see here is that the British succeeded in solidifying the caste narrative in the Indian subcontinent to a point where it is not discrimination happening one way, which is how the Western media and the global left portrays it. It's like upper caste people oppressing somebody from. It is actually both ways, and the identity solidification is happening across different castes, and each caste, actually the other backward class castes, as it's being called here, giving the British description, they are more caste conscious than the other castes in the.
But Utsama, I get that, but I mean, I want to ask you
And
this:
to further that,
why
I'm
am
coming to
I?
that. I'm coming to
Yeah,
that.
because
Of all these
the
communities,
narrative here is the narrative outside. The narrative is the prevailing narrative is that Muslims and Christians have no caste, right?
no,
So why
that,
is this?
no, that is not. See, that's what I'm trying to tell you, Ajay bhai. Uh,
Yeah,
there is now a growing consciousness that Muslims and Christians are very caste conscious. They are admitting that. What you are saying, they used to say that 5 years ago. Now they are admitting that Muslims and Christians have a very strong caste identity. But what this data shows is that Muslims are far more caste conscious than the rest of the communities. And that is actually unique, because irony, most of the anti-caste narrative building, anti-Hindu narrative building in America, based on the basis of caste, is driven by Muslims. So now you
so
can see, if there is any place who should be they should be targeting for, they should be targeting Muslims for caste discrimination, and not Hindus and Indians.
and then the whole idea about this, they always, this alliance building of Muslim and Dalit, that Muslims organizations like IMAC are trying to build this
IAM,
narrative that there is
IAMC and
a IMC is trying to
Equality Lab.
build this
Yeah.
an equality lab, right? So that if this is really true, I'm sure because of the similarity, cultural underlying, the historic and cultural similarity, this number holds true for Pakistan as well. Right?
And
Why
Bangladesh.
is and Bangladesh? So why is this not? This. Why are Pakistan and Bangladesh not targeted in the same way the Indians and Hindus are targeted? And why is it
So
that every
ideally,
time I pick up,
Equality
and why
Lab.
is it one more question so you can answer both? Why is it that every time I pick up a newspaper, a mainstream American newspaper, I always see Hindus being beaten down? Now remember, we have always said that no discrimination, even if it is against one person, is tolerable. We don't tolerate any discrimination on any basis, whether it's race, religion, caste, creed, varna, jati, sexual orientation, no matter what. Why is it then that every time I see a newspaper, only Hindus are being targeted?
Well, you have your answer there, Ajay bhai. Most of the time, these agendas are run by non-Indian, non-Hindus. Okay, they may have a couple of Hindu useful idiots in them who they are paying to do this job, but mostly it's run by non-Indians and non-Hindus. Why would they want to cut the feet, their own feet? So it's a targeted campaign, and this is what the mainstream media in America falls for. I'm pretty sure some of it is intentional. I'm pretty sure New York Times knows the truth. They just want to run a propaganda. But some others, I'm pretty sure, are not fully aware of the propaganda, and therefore they fall for it. And they are, they are giving liars and anti-Hindu activists in America a free pass, which is very concerning.
So that quickly going down this, I think one thing that is clear from this survey is that there's a pronounced difference between the way the caste is perceived, uh, or the marriage outside the caste is perceived in North India and South India. And you can see that North India and Central India, for example, is between 70 and 83%, whereas in South India it is 35 and 37%. So it's almost a 2 to 1 difference in the survey results, right? And that to me is good indication, and it's very interesting. I think what surprised me a little bit, and maybe because Bengal is included in there, that Northeast India has such a large number. Because if you were to look at the states in Northeastern, the true Northeastern states, well, maybe Bengal is not included in Northeast because it may be included in East. So why is it that in Northeast the marriage outside of caste is is only at 50%? Because we are talking about Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Mizoram, Nagaland, these states, right? Why is that? Why is that? Because of tribal areas and inter-tribe?
Yeah, because these are mostly tribal areas, and they all are within the larger scheduled tribe identity. So it is, that's why it is less in there.
And also that one thing that gives hope to everyone is that, look, among uh, people who are college graduates and non-college graduates, there's a 20 percentage point difference. Okay, it's 48 to 70 and 50 to 71 for men, 48 to 69 for women, 50 to 71. So I think as India becomes more and more literate, as more and more people go to college, I think this number is going to change. All right,
I think it's
let's go
also
to
the urban-rural divide, Ajay bhai.
it's
Uh,
also urban rural
Yeah,
divide.
because
Absolutely.
college graduates are mostly in the urban areas. Therefore, they have a larger because urban areas the professional guilds have broken. In the village areas, the rural areas, the professional guilds are still there. The iron worker, the tailor, and the farmer are still practicing their hereditary professions, whereas in urban areas, everybody is doing something different.
Right.
So that's
And,
why I think it impacts.
and then India is becoming more urbanized as well. So that's a good sign. So that I want to go to this one, and this to me, I don't know how much I believe this. So that this is I think this is the one that baffles me. Uh, I would like you to explain this because the survey says here that Hindus gain as many people as they lose due to conversion. So the percentage of Indian adults, okay, percentage of Indian adults who were raised as Hindus but now identify as something else, that means they're not Hindus, they were converted out of Hindus, is 0.8%. Sorry, percentage of people is 0.7%, whereas people who are raised as either Muslims or Christians or something else and are now Hindus is 0.8%. So there is a net gain of 0.1%. Muslims have essentially remained flat. The numbers don't quite show that. But Christians have gained. Christians have become 4 times as many people have become Christians than have left. Sikhs
So
have stayed essentially flat.
yeah, everybody
Jains,
else is flat except others. These
except other,
others, yeah. So
right? And
Ajay, by the
yeah,
takeaway from this is, and this is very important because in today's times again, India is targeted again and again. Hindus are targeted about ghar wapsi, this, that, all the bells and whistles. This data shows something very interesting. The Muslim population in India is growing disproportionately because of higher birth rate. That's number one point. Hindu population has a lower birth rate, but still has same number of people coming in as leaving, which means that Hindus are being converted to Christianity and Islam regularly in India, but so are many other people becoming Hindus. So that's the same proportion. Christians are actually converting people very aggressively, and that this is a data that should be very important for Hindutva activists, because Hindutva activists care about Hindus around the world, and American Hindutva activists, because they need to look into who are the people who are doing these conversion activities. And and obviously Sikhs and Buddhists and Jains, they are all within the limitations of equal number of people going in and out. uh, the point which says other is also something very interesting, because it means that people who previously did not identify as Hindus or Christians are probably moving into that category. That is where it is coming from. So, it's very interesting. But the takeaway from here is that Muslims are not actually able to convert more people to increase their population. They are doing so by having a higher birth rate. It is the Christians which are converting a lot of people in India.
Yeah, so that there is one more thing about, especially with the Christians. And I think that a lot of people are becoming Christians, but they're not declaring themselves to be Christians, because there are a lot of benefits that scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, other backward classes they have in terms of educational opportunities and employment opportunities, because they were traditionally deprived of a lot of opportunities in the society. Now, when people convert to Christianity, because Christianity has no, supposedly has no casteism, there is no discrimination, and there are a lot of British built institutions which are very favorable to Christians in India. There was no need to have this special provision granting educational and employment benefits. Now, when people were Hindus who are in the OBC, SC, ST categories as defined by the Indian Constitution, when they adopt Christianity, because that is where a lot of aggressive conversion that is going on with foreign funds, with force, fraud, and inducement. And when they convert, a lot of times they don't want to let go of their previous beneficial status, or positive affirmative action that we're talking about, preferential treatment, so they can get best of both worlds. And so they call themselves Hindus. When the survey happens, when the census occurs, they just say, well, I'm a Hindu. So the number of in Hindus becoming Christians is a definite undercount. So that it is undercount. A lot more Hindus are becoming Christians than this survey indicates.
I think
Okay.
I would slightly disagree with you with part of your analysis. I do not believe that it's only certain deprived sections of the communities that are converting. I completely disagree with that. I think that has happened in the past. That happened under in the 1960s, 70s, and in the British rule, significantly in big numbers. I think right now, if you go and study the how people are being converted, they are being converted in rural areas, they are being converted in urban areas, they are being converted in the rich communities across jatis. In fact, I can show you analysis by many of these evangelist groups where they say that it's far more beneficial to convert an upper class Hindu who is a CFO in a company, who is a high level person, executive at a software company, than to convert a farmer, because that software engineer will go and convert five more people. And that is
Uh,
actually happening in India very significantly, in southern parts of India and in Punjab and Delhi, that area. So I disagree
No,
with your
I
analysis.
think we have to look at the data, because I think so that the thing is that is it is, as we saw even in American context, that Hindus are not compared to Muslims in America. This is the survey that Pew did for Indians in America. Hindus compared to either Muslims or Christians, retained their faith more than other people belonging to other faiths. So I think it will be good if some survey comes out. It would be good to look at the data and to give us a more more informed knowledge, and then based on that we can do an analysis. I I I this one, so that I'm yeah I it doesn't resonate with me. I mean, I think that this number is needs a deeper understand an analysis of some kind. I'm not totally sold on this. I wish it was the case, but with the amount of and then I don't give too much credence to the data coming out of the evangelist groups in America either, because they generally try to raise money by showing success, and so a lot of their claims are exaggerated. And I think because if they show bigger numbers, let's say a particular church, particular segment of Christianity says that, look, I converted 10,000 people, and then other one comes and says, look, but I converted 20,000, and all of a sudden it becomes a competition for donations and for money in America or in the West. And I think so I don't give that much credence to the evangelical claims made by different churches, because that those numbers are always fungible, not reliable. Being as it may be, this also shows that, from the American Hindu perspective, it shows that there is no real restriction on you know that is placed, and people are freely entering and leaving the religious traditions. So then let's go to the next one. As we belief in God. This is generally an interesting, uh, with absolute certainty. Actually, I found it very interesting, Utsada, that except for Buddhists, I mean, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Jains, Sikhs all have the same amount of belief in God. Even though there are certain traditions in Jains which will say that, that can be, what God means is uncertain. But Buddhist, being truly agnostic, shows in this survey that most of the Buddhists don't have absolute belief in God, and they are either they do not believe or they have less certainty. Your thoughts?
Well, my takeaway from this is that two things stand out here: Buddhists and Muslims. I say this because Buddhists are not agnostic, Ajay bhai. Buddhists are atheists. Okay, Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist theology is completely atheist. There is no definition of God, or their God. That doesn't have to be God. It's a different. I'm just saying the theology. I'm not saying the practice. The practice is completely different, and that's why it's important for us to discuss this. Buddhist theologies believe that there is no God. So for 43% to absolutely believe that there is God of Buddhist believing shows that they are very Hinduized in the Indian subcontinent, in India. Very, very Hinduized. Okay. And to add another 23% to that shows that how Buddhism in India is pretty much Hinduism. Same with Jainism. As far as Hindus are concerned, the fact that there is a lot of space for atheism in Hindu philosophies, to have 80% of Hindus and another 18% of Hindus, so basically 98% of Hindus believe in God, shows that Hindus are actually very, very inclined to the theistic schools of Hindu Dharma, which is Advaita Vedanta, Vishishta Advaita Vedanta, and Dvaita Vedanta. So these are I'm pretty sure most Hindus hearing me say this don't know these things. They don't know which dharmic philosophical schools they come from. Most Hindus don't. But it is in their subconscious. It is in their practice. It is in their hearts and minds. So that is also interesting. What is interesting about Muslims is that Muslims have to believe in God to be Muslims. There is no space for atheism in Islam and Christianity. Absolutely no space. In fact, in Islam, atheism is punishable by death. So, this is the interesting part here. And Indian Muslims are just surprising me in every slide today.
Yeah, and then look at it. I mean,
There are 9% of Indian Muslims who believe there is no God.
yeah,
So which
and
means that
so the
9% of Indian Muslims can actually officially, under Islamic law, be killed.
not nine. It's not nine.
It is.
Okay, I think I'm getting echo whenever you have the mic on. I don't know why. But there's a lot of feedback. But be as that may be, I think it's the number is more like I would Pew has combined with absolute certainty and with less certainty into a single category when they put 91%. I personally, actually, Utsada, combine with less certainty and do not believe in the same category because that is a true indicator of because Abrahamic religions are very absolute, so you either believe or you don't believe. So classifying, absolute certainty and less certainty into one actually does disservice to Abrahamic faiths. So you really need to combine the two, and if you combine the two, then 22% of 20% of Hindus, 20% exactly the same, 20% of Muslim, 18% of Muslims, and 22% of Christians, within margin of error, the same number of people. 19% of Jains, 18% of Sikhs, all of them believe either don't have absolute belief in God. Okay, that should actually be really eye opening for a lot of people because from the Abrahamic religious perspective, the Indian Muslims are not that different in their belief in God compared to the Hindus or dharmic traditions. Now, there may be gradation
No,
within
no,
the
no, no.
belief.
Ajay bhai,
Wait, wait, wait. One second. Ustad, I just want to finish this one thought. Within absolute certainty, there may be other things embedded. So, for example, someone can be more fanatic than other, but absolutism is absolutism. Please go ahead. Sorry.
no, what I'm saying is that you cannot compare Indian Muslims and Christians to Hindus in terms of belief in God rationale, because the religions in their basis are completely different. So the Indian Christian is following Christianity pretty much very, as its theology, because 98% of them have belief in God, some form of God. Okay, that's a number I can go with. The surprising number here is the Muslims. If there are 12% Muslims which says they're not sure about God, and there are another 6% which actually says there is no God, that essentially means that they are negating Islam as a religion. They are literally, because belief in God is the pillar or the fundamental basis of Islam and Christianity. But the Christians are not doing that. It's the Muslims who are doing that. So that shows that there is about 18% of the Muslims in the Indian subcontinent, or in not sorry, in India, that genuinely are questioning Islam as a religion. That is a huge number.
That's
That
a
is a
huge number.
huge number of people in India.
Absolutely.
And that number should be something to be looked at. Very important.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. The and it may be the openness of the Hindu dharmic traditions that is leading to this, and so that this is important from American Hindu perspective as well, because people in America should know that one of the reasons why organizations like Indian American Muslim Council and is against Hindus is because they think that this kind of tolerant approach that Hindus have in life um, towards belief in God and other things may be diluting Islam in India. And that is why they are against Hindus with even more vigor. Okay, I think I truly think that that this is a lot of the anti-Hindu rhetoric that comes out is because a lot of Christians and Muslims sitting outside of India believe that if they don't keep the fight up against Hindus, they would be influenced and eventually be absorbed in the larger Hindu stream of culture and philosophy and faith. I want to go to the next slide so that this whole thing is really interesting, and so this is the one where they are talking about um, the some religious. So you know, how many people, for example, believe in wearing bindi, in karma, in reincarnation, in fate, in the power of Ganga, river Ganga, to purify and believe in angels or benevolent spirit? Again, Utsoda, interesting to say. And I don't know why it says that Jains is not applicable, because they don't have enough data or what, because Jains put the bindis just as much as Buddhist and
No,
Hindus and
I
Sikhs
think
do.
they put Jains into Hindu. I think they considered in this aspect. I think they put them under the Hindu group.
There's something we need to look into data, but regardless,
Yeah. So
Utsura
what?
is the same thing. I want to point out, because a lot of times, the Hindu Students Council did a campaign on wearing bindi. They had to do that because the Hindus were made to feel uh, somewhat ashamed for putting the bindi on, right, in America. But look at this, Soda. 18% of Muslims, 22% of Christians in India put the bindi on. This is what the Indian American Muslim councils and the evangelicals are really afraid of, that people, these are the same number of people who believe are uncertain or don't believe in God. These are the same number of people who believe that there is absolutely nothing wrong in putting the bindi on, which is a sign of Hindu dharma to many people, but it's much broader. It's the same number of people who believe in karma. 77% of Hindu Muslims and 54% of Christians believe in dharma. Okay, the concept of karma does not exist in either one of these two faiths.
Well, they
27 and 29% of people who are Muslim and Christian believe in reincarnation. There is no reincarnation in Islam and Christianity. There is hell and heaven, right? So what gives?
so let me expose some of the things that are happening from both sides here. Okay, you mentioned many of the fundamental Hindu practices and Hindu beliefs, like karma and reincarnation. In fact, reincarnation is fundamental to Hindu dharma, and karma is very, very core to Hindu dharma, not in any other religions. When I say any other religions, I'm not mentioning Sikh, Buddhist, and Jains are largely theologically similar to Hindus. They are the same theologically. So, epistemologically, not theologically. Theologically, they could be different. Epistemologically, they are the same. So, in in the Muslims, you see that a large number of Muslims believe in karma, which means again they are nominally Muslim. Nominally, they're again believing in the purity of Ganga. Again, nominally Muslims. That's a very important numbers. And a small number believes in reincarnation. So you can see that in amongst the Muslims and Christians, there is a much smaller number that believes in reincarnation. What is worrisome, should be worrisome to Hindus, is that in Hindus there is a small number, less than 50%, that believes in reincarnation. That is actually worrisome for Hindus, Sikhs, and Buddhists, because all three of them, Hindus, Sikhs, and Buddhists, epistemologically believe in the Hindu concept of reincarnation. So for them to have only 18% in the case of Sikhs and Buddhists, and only 40% in the case of Hindus believe in reincarnation, shows that Hindus are not epistemologically sound. They don't know their own epistemological roots, and that's because they don't have formal education in their religions. Another worrisome point for Hindus should be, and Sikhs and Buddhists and Jains, should be in the belief of angels. Hindu theology doesn't have, Hindu epistemology, Hindu ontology doesn't have concept of angels at all. There is no concept of angels in Hindu ontology. This number of Hindus, more Hindus believe in angels than believe in reincarnation. That shows the Abrahamization of the Hindu belief in India. So Hindus in India have been Abrahamicized, which means Christianity and Islam has penetrated to the point where more Hindus believe in angels than they believe in reincarnation,
Yeah,
which is not
I
good.
think. No, no. I think you're looking at it slightly differently than the question says, because angels part I understand, but I think the question could have been split into benevolent spirit and angels, and if you split that out, then you'll get a better indicator, because
I still
there
think
is a
Hindus don't
no,
believe
no,
in
wait.
benevolent spirits.
Let me explain what I mean. There is a concept of a Mahatma in Hindu Dharma. That means a realized soul. So people like, and I'm not talking about in a political sense. I'm talking about the sages and saints. Even if, like look at Saint Eknath, Sant Eknath, or you can look at Narsi Mehta, or you can look at Chaitanya Prabhu. These are the souls who, these are the higher beings or higher souls who came and took Janmam or incarnation as human beings. Or they were not angels, but they were certainly a higher spirit, right? I mean, look at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and what he accomplished, and they're living saints today in India who people revere, and I don't want to name any and exclude any. But if you split this, and again, the difference is the way the English words are interpreted in Indian context. So, and we don't know actually what word they used when they went to, say, for example, rural India or in urban area where people's mother tongue is not English. Did they use the word benevolent spirit or angels, or did they say, do you consider there is some higher being among you, or a higher being that guides you? And the answer would be yes. Okay, so that is the way you look at it. So, and that is across India, across all dharmic faiths, and that is the way you look at the benevolent spirit part. Now angels, okay, I take your word for it, but it's nowhere to really split this.
I no, I give you the benefit of doubt on that, but I'm going by what is written. And we are
Yeah,
analyzing what is written, not what could have been written, what could have been said, what may have been said. So if I go by what is written,
yeah,
my analysis is that there is a weak point here for Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, and Jains as the larger Hindu dharmic community. The weak point being that more of them believe in the Abrahamicized concept of angels and benevolent spirits than they believe in reincarnation, which I have experienced myself. I can give you a small anecdote, a half a minute anecdote. I was watching a Bollywood movie with a friend a couple of years ago in somebody's house, and the Bollywood movie had this angel in it. Again, my wife, who was not born a Hindu but was born a Christian and is now knowing Hindu Dharma after being married to me, she asked me that question. She said, Hindus don't believe in angels. Why is this Bollywood movie showing angels? And my friend goes on and on, at whose house I was watching this Bollywood movie, was very, very okay with it. He was explaining angels to my wife. So my wife was surprised as Hindus, how do you, because when she got to know about Hindu Dharma, she got to know about the philosophical roots of Hindu Dharma. And she knows that there are no angels in Hindu Dharma. So she was surprised that average Hindus actually don't know that, and they actually believe in it. So that's the Abrahamization of the Hindu belief,
yeah.
because
I think
yeah, it has happened over because of colonial rule and then popular pop culture. Hindus what Hollywood
yeah, to some
movies.
extent, Uttara. In I can see that happening in America. I can see that happening in maybe parts of urban India. But really, I don't know what language this survey was conducted in, and so I remain somewhat skeptical of this answer. And I don't conclude the way you have concluded, because I really think that if the question was asked in, say, there are 30,000 people surveyed, and not, I don't know how many people, if you look at it just the percentage wise, the number of people who are conversant with this kind of language in India, if it's English, right? So I'm 100% sure that the survey was not done in English for majority of the people, right? Because it's statistical random sample. So considering that maybe 30% of Indian population knows English, 20,000 people don't even know what word angel or benevolent spirit. So we have to really, I think we have to dig deeper into this, but we'll get to that one of these days. We'll conclude this discussion at in on this, saying that we can defer it or disagree, one of the two. I don't know yet which one.
I
All right.
disagree with you on this one based on the
All
data.
right, Utsala, now we come to the fun part. So this is the analysis of this survey. So Usada, I think good survey, good. I think we did justice to the survey. So I think this was a good analysis. I thoroughly enjoyed discussing this. So that with that, I think we should play some kind of, we're going to soon have music that separates the segments, right? I mean, we don't have it right now, but eventually we will have that. For now, I think we just have to do with this. So good job, and we need to acknowledge that, right? I think so that the next one are three regular segments, right? The Hindu Good News of the Week, Hindu Seva Charity Act of the Week, and finally the Hindu Phobe of the Week, or the you know a list of or our honors for people who hate Hindus the most. And this category never disappoints because there's so many deserving candidates, and we have to pick one. That's the only disappointment here. So the first, I want to kind of give everyone an update on one of the things that we talked about last time. And you remember last time, Utsoda, uh, uh, we talked about we talked about the Chinese Communist Party's 50th anniversary, and we made a point that there are a lot of people in India uh, who are more devoted to communism and China than they are to India. So, Utsada, wouldn't you know it? Here is an advertisement from Hindu. So let me know when you can see this. Now, remember, the Chinese are standing at the border, trying to take Indian territory in Ladakh and Leh, in Ladakh. And here is the newspaper,
You may want to
ironically named
zoom in
the
a little
Hindu.
bit, Ajay. You
Pardon
may
me?
have to zoom in. You may have to zoom into the newspaper a little bit.
Okay, let's try that. Uh, let's see if I can zoom in more. I just wanted to show the headline. Hopefully, you can see the headline. Also, the Hindu, one of the prominent newspapers in India, ironically named the Hindu, probably the most anti Hindu newspaper that exists in the world, publishes a full page advertisement from Communist Party of China glorifying a country that is trying to take Indian territory, that is a blatant abuser of human rights. And here, you know, here is a full page ad. Where is Hindus' loyalty? And I
Ajay
just
bhai,
thought that
everybody has to pay their bills. Okay, if the newspaper Hindu cannot worry about loyalty when it is aligned ideologically with Chinese Communist Party, has to pay its bills, and it has no problems in being open about it because there is no repercussions to be paid. As much as, again, the anti-Hindu, anti-India propagandists of the world would, cry from the top of their minarets that India under Prime Minister Modi is, clamping down on media, so on and so forth. At the end of the day, it is very free country for the media. The fact that a country that was targeting India with physical violence on its borders that resulted in the death of Indian soldiers just this past year can put a full page ad in one of the most prominent Indian newspapers, and the newspaper doesn't mind putting that ad, shows how media and press is free in India. It is freer than America. Imagine North Korea putting an ad in an American newspaper, or Iran putting an ad in New York Times. Even New York Times will not be willing to do that. Okay,
hey, so that knowing the
so
way New York Times and Washington Post have evolved, I wouldn't be surprised.
no, but they are even then they won't do that. But the fact that
I,
the Hindu,
no,
the
yeah,
most pro-Maoist newspaper in India, pro-Marxist newspaper in India, does
America
that.
has changed enough, Soda. America has changed enough. I can tell you that that day. I mean, it's only a matter of days, if not, you know. if not less, before you see a CCP ad in American newspaper. Hey, so that moving on to our regularly scheduled segment, good news, Hindu good news of the week. So that, and I got a really good one. I think you will really like this. I think. Let's see what you think about this. So that, as you know, um, let me share my screen. This is really good news, and I am so it was about 7 years ago that Prime Minister Modi of India instituted something called the International Yoga Day. And since then, the practice of yoga across the world, the prominence, the visibility, and acceptance yoga has been increasing day by day, right? Usada, this should be heartwarming for every Hindu in America. So the Saudi Arabian government has now signed a memorandum of understanding MOU with India regarding the institution of formal yoga protocol to promote yoga in the country, in Saudi Arabia. Okay, so there are two things to note here. One, they're calling it exercise and they're doing it fine. They're not calling it religious practice. But look, Alabama turned around and now Saudi Arabia turned around. So maybe one of these days, Utsada, the Deobandi school of philosophy in India will turn around and accept yoga, right? So good news all over Utsada, and every good news deserves what? Every good news deserves a good cheer. So with that, Utsada, here we go.
So I would be slightly more cautious because, like Alabama, Saudi Arabia also has taken the Hindu aspect of yoga out of it. What wouldn't be surprising is, that has happened in many parts of America and other parts of the world. There will be something called Christian yoga, and similarly, there will be something called Islamic yoga that will emerge out of Saudi Arabia. And then you will have an article from Rana Ayub in Washington Post saying how yoga was actually stolen from Islam by the Hindus. So trust the power of propaganda and untruth. And I will hold my claps for now, but this is a positive step in the right direction because it is good for humanity.
So celebrate every small victory. This is ours is a tradition that was under foreign rule and subjugation for the last 1,000 years, and finally our our traditions are being recognized around the world. Is it perfect? No, but is it a good start? And I think it is a good start, Utsada. So I, you know, I think we should be open to celebration. Um, so that the next one on our list, as always, is the Hindu Charity or Seva Act of the Week. And Utsada, let's go to the Hindu Seva Act of the Week. And Hindu Seva Act of the Week, we always start with this little music. Oops. So the once again, COVID third wave is second wave, right? Second wave is still going on in India. As of yesterday, still 44,000 new cases, still several hundred deaths being reported, and we just delivered, I believe it's a few dozen oxygen concentrators. As we Vishwa Hindu Parishad of America, uh, our oxygen concentrators just reached multiple hospitals, several dozen of them, yeah, this last week. So we continue to ask that please go to bhpamerica.org, click on the donate button, and make a donation to VHPA for COVID-19 relief. So that, and with that, your favorite topic. Tell us about the Hindu phobe of the week.
Well, you know, if you go to the next slide, you will
It's
see.
coming. It's coming. One of
Uh,
these days, it's coming. Okay, hold on. Here you go.
okay.
All right. And I actually have something better also to show
Yeah,
you.
I
So the
saw
two
that.
slides.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
but
this is
let's
a
see
bigger
the Washington
headline.
Post headline, because the Washington Post headline gives tells a lot about the level of propaganda that is targeted at against Hindus in America. So there's an article in Washington Post that calls out and names and brags about how the gang of anti-Hindu academics are actually creating uh, a toolkit. You know, this is all about toolkits and a field manual on how to counter Hindutva people in academia, who are exposing the academia here. And this came as an article in Washington Post. And if you go to the next slide, Ajay,
Yeah.
so you know they all join hands, all these individuals and groups. There are about 8 of them. They're put together, and it's not very well done. So that's why I'm actually even discussing this, because it recycles and rehashes old accusations and hate filled narratives against Hindutva people, uh, who actually are just beginning to put their voice out in counter. And so they put together this manual targeting Hindutva people who are protesting the blatant Hindu phobia in American academia, and they are calling it harassment field manual. So I think the fact that Washington Post posted this shows where they come from, and I think Audrey Truschke and her gang are the Hindu haters of the week. And I think this is a positive development from our perspective, even though they are doing it with pure hate in mind towards the Hindus. It's a positive aspect from our perspective, because they are feeling that more and more Hindus are rising in protest against their blatant lies and hatred. And that is why they have to come up with this. And that's why they have to go to Washington Post to put it on their as a news item. And it shows it. I give full credit to organizations like ours, Hindu Pact, like HAF, and there are thousands of Hindus online, on social media, and in different parts of America, who are individually rising to the occasion and exposing these academics for their lies. So
Yeah.
they can keep making
Um,
more manuals and more toolkits. uh, as the Greta Thunberg episode showed, this is not the age of toolkits anymore. To use a leftist phrase, the masses are rising. So there you go.
so here is the. I want to show you the. I should have shared the other screen, but that's okay. Let me show you the Hall of Shame here, and here it is. So these are the people. Okay, the Hindu phobes of the week. Utsoda, Manan Ahmed, Columbia University; Ananya Chakravarti, Georgetown University; Rohit Chopra, Santa Clara University; Purnima Dhawan, University of Washington; Supriya Gandhi, Yale; uh, Simranjeet Singh, Union Seminary; Davesh Soneji, University of Pennsylvania; Deepa Sundaram, University of Denver; and Audrey Truschke, Rutgers University. Audrey Truschke is the person who glorifies Aurangzeb,
No, no.
the
So,
killer
so,
of
so,
Hindus.
so, out of these, the the useful idiots could be many, but Audrey Truschke is a key driver of anti-India hate. Uh, she shows up in Khalistani rallies in front of the UN, so you know where that is coming from, and Kashmiri Islamist rallies in front of the UN. So these are all geopolitically motivated moves. You know, being pretending to be in support of liberal Hindus and against anti-Hindutva. These are all ruses and narratives that are layered on top of a very fundamental, basic Hindu hate and India hate from many of these people. So Ananya Chakravartis of the world and Rohit Chopras of the world have to figure out uh, where they stand, because as they might just dislike Modi and start doing these things. So there is a whole gradation of anti-Hindu activists, some of whom don't even know why they are doing it, and they end up becoming useful idiots and tools in the hands of the ordinary trushkis of the world. So that's my take on that.
Well, so with that, we come to the end of today's program. As always, thank you for the conversation. For people who joined us today, thank you very much for joining. I hope you like our new way of doing the show. This was Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact. Hindu Pact is the Hindu policy research and advocacy collective initiative of World Hindu Council of America. We come live every week on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. And we are here every Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern. I am Ajay Shah. I'm the president of the World Hindu Council of America with, as always, with Utsav Chakrabarti. Utsavda is the executive director of Hindu Pact. And once again, Utsavda, we have a very special piece of music. This one brought to us by Decibel again, just created for this specific particular show. And again, they are joined. Decibel was joined by Vikram Shankar, and Vikram Shankar, as you know, is it does music professionally, and they contribute their time and effort every week. They spend hours creating this special music piece for us. I cannot thank them enough, Utsada, for the awesome work that they have been doing. So with Utsada, I really want to thank Decibels for creating the music for us. Please, stay. Everyone, stay online. Listen to this 3 minutes of music. It is just, you will really, really like this music. So again, everyone, thank you very much for joining. And here we go with the music from Decibel as we close out the show for today. I and on think Utsada, thank you and namaste.
Thank you, everybody, and namaste. And this has been fantastic. Thank you, Decibel, and look forward to seeing you again.